All right, so hello everyone that's here so far. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you guys for showing up and learning about how to boost your self-confidence. So today's webinar, that's all that we're going to be talking about, is just ways to boost your self-confidence. As a dietitian, I deal with a lot of clients and patients that have trouble with this, and so I'm so excited to be able to hopefully give you guys some value and share some content with you guys today that will be helpful. So let's start. I'm sure that you guys are able to use the chat box, I'm hoping. If you are, then I would love for you guys to just think about a time that you felt super confident in either your career or in some sort of situation, and just like place yourself in that moment and think about how that made you feel, what kind of thoughts came to mind when you were feeling or doing this thing, and then what words come to mind. So if you have a few words or a few thoughts or feelings that come to mind in a scenario that you felt really, really confident and really, really good, I want you to just put that in the chat box or write it down if you want, and let's carry that throughout the seminar because it'll help you at the end to just sort of be back in this mindset. So if you can think about a time, put that in the chat box, and let me see if I can get the chat. Oh, I can, but I don't see anything. But yeah, if you guys want to put that in there, you can. Okay, so this is what I use. Oh, we do have one, right? Oh, nice. Confident, comfortable. Hi, Louise. Comfortable and happy in a great state of mind. Oh, I love that. Happy. Oh, that's so nice. Okay. So yeah, if you guys have a time that you felt very confident, let's just hone that energy right now and bring it with us throughout the seminar. So anyway, to begin, I'm going to just set some key points on here on how I remember how to be confident and how I employ this in my clients and in my patients whenever they're dealing with a time of lack of confidence or just like low self-esteem. So I like to say, be a gamer. And G starts for growing, so it's down here. And then A starts for acceptance. M stands for mindset. E is embracing failure. And then R is reinforcement. So we're going to start with mindset and work our way through this. So mindset to acceptance, to embracing failure, to growing, and to reinforcing this all, so that you can just sort of reinforce it daily, and then it becomes sort of habitual, meaning that you won't be able to really think about it anymore. You're just going to implement these every single day, and hopefully it can increase your self-confidence in the long run. So that's really the goal. Okay. So what does it mean to be confident? I had to look this one up. So the Latin word of confidence is fidere, which means to trust. And so therefore having self-confidence is just having trust in your abilities to carry something out or to overcome something. Just trusting in yourself and trusting that, you do have all the tools in the toolbox in order to be confident and, live out that life that thing that you want to do. So just keep that in mind. But of course, this doesn't mean that we have to do it all the time. We all have scenarios and, circumstances where maybe it's unfamiliar, or maybe we have a history of not doing so well in that area. And so that makes us not feel that confident in order to do it. So this doesn't mean you have to be confident all the time, but hopefully this will help you in those areas that you want to increase your confidence in. All right, so let's start with mindset. So if you're having any negative thoughts, I encourage you to write them down, and then we can reinvent them. So what I mean by this is that if you're having a negative thought, so let's say that you're in a scenario that you don't feel that confident, maybe it's a first date, or maybe it's a job interview and you're feeling like I'm not enough, or the thought is, I have a fear of failure, or whatever that thought is, that negative thought that's sort of holding you down and holding you back, write it down and be able to articulate that thought, because that's really going to help you in order to reinvent that thought and make it different, create a new thought. And so kind of what I mean by this is that when you write down your thought, your negative thought, so let's go with the example, I am not enough. You write that down and we can reinvent it in either a positive or a neutral way. So a neutral way of that thought, I am not enough, could be, okay, I'm acknowledging that I don't feel like I'm enough in this moment. That's a thought. I'm acknowledging it and I'm neutralizing it. I'm not putting it in a category of good or bad. I'm just saying, okay, this is a neutral thought. I'm not enough. That's how I'm feeling right now. And I'm neutralizing it. And I'm not feeling good or bad about that. Another thing, if you want to step it a little bit up, which is what I like to do, is kind of reinventing that thought in a more positive swing. So the I am not enough thought, you could swing positively in a way that, interferes with that negative thought pattern. So what I like to do is just think of ways that I feel enough in circumstances that I do feel enough, or things that I really like about myself, some unique qualities about myself that kind of justify and reinforce the fact that I am enough. And so when I have that thought of, okay, I'm not enough in this circumstance, I can sort of counteract that with all my positive thoughts and all my positive things about myself. And I actually really like to write it down in a journal, and we'll talk about this also later in the webinar, but I like to just have a journal and be able to write down all of the things all my negative thoughts, and then I either cross them out or I write on the other side positive thoughts to counteract that negative thought. So whenever I'm thinking that thought, whenever I'm in a scenario and that thought that I don't want comes to my mind, I automatically think of the other thought. So you're just sort of playing like tennis with your mind, but it does work. And over time, your brain will sort of get tired of having to constantly combat that negative thought, that it'll just either go to the neutral or the positive thought more times than not. So it's sort of little like neuro hack for you guys. And then just writing down reminders for yourself daily. I like to write 3 things that I'm grateful for every single day. And sometimes I wake up and it's just little tiny things, like I'm grateful for my legs, that I can walk, or, that I have a voice to speak and speak my truth, or, sometimes it can be small things and sometimes it can be bigger things depending on, the day, but really getting into that positive mindset, and that mindset that you do have a lot to be grateful for, even if you don't think that you do. So let me see what's happening in the chat right now. Oh, I know what happened, just in case something. Okay. And then also being able to express your ideas. So this is something that I struggled with a lot of times in high school, is that I didn't feel like I really could express a lot of the ideas or, visions that I had for the future and things like that. And then once I actually got out of my shell and I articulated myself, and I was able to hone into those emotions and put words to what I was feeling and what I was envisioning for the future, I felt like it really helped me and my self-confidence, because others agreed with me and others had similar visions as me. And so it sort of is also good for being able to build a community that's like-minded and that, shares similar values as you, and being able to sort of reinforce that to increase your self-confidence in how you feel and how you think. So, and then the next thing is just practicing self-care. So getting enough sleep, nourishing your body and like de-stressing. These things are all super important when it comes to confidence, because if you're not doing that, you're not going to feel as confident and you're not going to feel as good in your body. And so you won't really be able to live life, as confidently if you're super stressed or if you're lacking on sleep. It's just going to be a lot harder to do that. And we'll get into this a little bit further in the seminar here. Okay, so let's get into acceptance, just because this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And, a lot of females, especially in this, sort of medium bombarded world, it can be sort of hard. So what I like to do is just first let go of the things that I can't change. So there's just certain circumstances, there's certain cards that everyone has been dealt, and those things you can't change. The past is unchangeable. You can learn from those things and you can reflect back and you can work through past traumas and things like that. But just harping and sort of, reminiscing and being very past oriented or fixating on things that you can't change is not very helpful. So I like to just let go of the things that I can't change in the world and focus on things that are under my ability to change and to focus on. So you want to remind yourself of what's unique and what's special to you, because we're all just such unique souls and we're all just kind of, traveling on this journey together, but we all bring a different perspective and we all have different lived experiences, and we all bring unique things to workforces and to just the world in general. So really, be able to hone in on those things and appreciate yourself for being so valuable and for being so unique to the world. Because I know that every single one of you on this webinar, I guarantee that you have a lot of unique values about yourself. And just know that those are awesome and that you should celebrate yourself for that. So that's something that can really help when you're trying to increase your self-confidence. And then finally, you want to be kind to yourself. I'm sure that you guys have probably heard of this before, but when you're having negative self-talk and when you're talking to yourself and you're kind of getting down on yourself and you're being too hard on yourself, I like to think, would I say what I'm saying to myself to my best friend or to my sister, or to my mom and dad? And the answer is usually no. So you don't want to talk to yourself in that manner. You kind of want to talk to yourself like you're your best friend. And when you look in the mirror, the next thing that I have is what thoughts come to mind. And when you look in the mirror and you're kind of criticizing yourself, when I'm working with women with like body image issues and stuff like that, this can really be helpful. But when they look in the mirror, they have like a lot of negative thoughts about themselves and how they present to the world. And if you were coaching your best friend or if you were giving advice to your mom or something, you wouldn't say those harsh things. So why are you saying it to yourself? So that's something that I like to implement, is just talking to myself like I'm my best friend, because you are your best friend in a weird way. So you might as well just give yourself some positive reinforcement and love to yourself, because you deserve that. And then also just analyzing the stories that you're telling yourself, because some of them are true and some of them are just stories that you're telling yourself. Like, I worked with somebody one time that had a story that she was telling herself that she, was introverted and that she was quiet-minded and all these different things. And it was actually that she was just kind of scared. And so the story that she was telling herself was that she was born like that. But the actual story was that she was just scared to be more outspoken or to be more embraceful of her, opinions and things like that. So it really just depends on like the stories you're telling yourself. And the cool thing is that you can change that narrative in your mind. So if you're telling yourself a story that's helping you and serving you, cool. You can leave it alone. You don't have to change it. But if you're telling yourself a story that's not so good for you and that's sort of inhibiting your ability to, show up as your best self in the world, then that's something that you can analyze with a therapist, with a nutrition counselor like myself, or with a mindset coach, whatever is the most helpful for you in the moment. But that's definitely really, really helpful for when you're trying to change your mind and to increase your confidence when you're carrying yourself in the world. Let's see. Let me look at the time as well. Okay, so let's go into self-care, and then we're going to take a 2-minute break in a little bit. So let's go into self-care. So I like to talk about how to really implement a lot of care and a lot of compassion for yourself. And self-care is my thing. I do it every single day and I just love it. It's time that I give back to myself every single day. And it's really been super helpful for me. So I'm hoping that these will be also helpful for you. So one thing that I love to do is skincare. And if this isn't your thing, then that's okay. But if it is your thing, then you can, implement more skincare routines, massages, facials. If you guys want skincare advice, you can follow me on Instagram. I have like a whole skincare highlight, and I like to use like clean stuff. So things with like glass bottles that are good for the planet and also good for your skin. So skincare is something that you can do every day if you want, and that also helps to just improve everything. Massages, I also love, facial, things like that. But also being nice to yourself. Appreciating who you are and also what you bring to the world. So again, that uniqueness that we talked about, how we all bring this sort of unique thing to the world, and just appreciating that is a form of self-care. So if you can sort of hone in on what that is that you bring to the world, then that will be really helpful with increasing and boosting your self-confidence. And then this one is so crucial and has been really important for me actually, is just creating healthy environments for yourself. So whether that environment is online or in person, whether it's at work or at home, whether it's in your friend group or in your professional and career group, just creating a healthy environment and analyzing which relationships are serving you, which relationships are not, and being able to navigate those appropriately, because a lot of times we do end up holding on to maybe relationships that are not so good for us, whether it's a friendship or whatever. Obviously, your family are things that you can't change. So what I like to say is love your family and choose your friends, because you really are the sum of the people that you are around. So if you're sort of being able to control, those things, then I encourage people to build environments that are going to build them up and make them feel good and again, whether that's social media environments like online or that's in-person environments, do what you can to surround yourself with people that share similar values as you and make you feel good about yourself, and are able to sort of help you to reflect and navigate those hard times. So there we go. Yes, your company is everything. I love that. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that, I'm super grateful to be able to have a group of really strong and passionate women around me. And, they always build me up and I can go to them for advice. And that's been really important for me. Just developing as a person, it helps to be able to get those outside views and to get feedback, but then also get people that are your cheerleaders sometimes, because you need that too. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. So as a dietitian, you guys probably expected to see something like this up here. So, making confident food choices is also something that's I find really fascinating. And I like to help my clients and patients with, or any corporations or whatever, if I'm doing a corporate seminar, but just choosing foods that nourish you and choosing things that are going to help you throughout the long run. So sometimes this might seem counterintuitive, but sometimes this is ice cream and other times this is a salad. So if you think of foods that really give you energy and really help you, I know for me, there's certain foods that help me throughout my workout or make me feel really good and make me feel really energized. So maybe that's a big green salad with some lean proteins like tofu, or a salad or chicken, or maybe that's some toast like this with all these different sort of fun things on top, or maybe it's a smoothie, or, every day it sort of differs. And the number one question that I get asked as a dietitian is, what should I eat for XYZ scenario, or just what should I eat in general? And I struggle so much with this question because I cannot tell somebody who just asked me on the side of the street what they should eat, because I don't know their family lifestyle, I don't know their cultural background, I don't know their medical status, I don't know their family history, I don't know, their genetics, I don't know their food preferences, I don't know if they have allergies. Like, there's so many different things that come into play when I'm even recommending any sort of anything to anybody. So it's kind of funny because people think that, I can generalize and say, eat more fruits and vegetables and, include whole grains. And there's some general, nutrition tips that are really helpful for people, but then everybody has a sort of different scenario. So it really does depend on you, and it depends on your genetics, your body, all these different things, all these different variations. And it gets really, really complicated, especially when you get down to nutrient metabolism and like the subatomic level of nutrition, which is what I studied in undergrad. It gets really, really complex. So I would say when you're choosing things to nourish yourself, I think focus on how you feel rather than really anything else. So like I said, at times this can be a big green salad with a ton of chicken and beautiful vegetables, but then, maybe a Saturday night comes around and you want some ice cream with your friends, or you want an Oreo cookie, or whatever it is, that can also be super nourishing to yourself too. So it just sort of depends on context. It also depends on you and what your goals are and how you want to feel and all these different things. But for the majority of the time, I tell people, focus on what makes you feel good and really be honest with yourself on what makes you feel good, because for me, it's going to be different than for you. So yeah, just be honest with yourself and be confident that you know your body enough and you're the expert on your body. Even if you're working with somebody like me, a trained healthcare professional, I really do think that you're the expert. Like, you live in your body every single day. You're very in tune with your body. You know what's good for you, you know what's bad for you. Working with someone like me or working with another dietitian is just going to help you further, but you really do know, and you have this intuition. And I have full faith that people know, when they're feeling good and when they're feeling not so good. And so foods definitely do impact you. And getting down to the root and getting down to which foods impact you and don't, you're probably going to need assistance with. But once you get it all under control and handled, I think that people can really live confidently with themselves. And my goal as a dietitian is to make people not want to need me anymore. So my goal is sort of to make myself go out of work, which is kind of interesting, but that really is my goal when I'm working with people, is just to help them have sustainable lifestyle changes that they can carry with them throughout their whole entire life and sort of can be habitual for them. So Anyway, let's see. Okay, so this one's the one that I struggle with the most. So full disclosure, I struggle with embracing my own failures. And so I've come up with this acronym of face, well, it's not an acronym, but just like a mantra of face, change, and embrace. So facing your fears. So I'm challenging all of you today to just face one fear this week. If you can be bold enough, just try to face one fear, even if it's something small this week, and see what happens, because I guarantee it's going to be okay. So that's why, facing your fears over and over again can sometimes be helpful, because you can learn that it's okay. And we're all going to have different things that come to our lives, and different fears that come to fruition and things like that, but we can all overcome them. So facing your fear is number one. Changing the way that you're viewing that fear. So oftentimes I have viewed fear in the past as scary and anxiety ridden and all these different negative emotions with something that's sort of, I guess, unconventional, like not traditional. But I think that thinking that you actually get to face your fear and fail, and embracing that, instead of saying that you don't want to fear and fail. So you aren't really failing, you're just learning. I'm sorry, I kept saying fear, but I meant fail. You aren't really failing, you're just actually just learning. So there was a saying that I heard in a podcast, or I either read in a book this week, I forget what it was, but I was like, this is so relevant. And maybe it was like Tony Robbins or one of those like in motivational speakers said that when you fall, a lot of times people say just get back up, but really you should fall and you should learn why you fell, and then you should get back up. Because if you're going to fall, then get back up again, you're probably going to fall down for similar reasons as you fell the first time, right? So when you fail and when you fall and when you don't meet an expectation, it's a really good time to learn and to, reevaluate and to become better, because honestly, we're all not changing and growing and becoming better without failing. So I wouldn't say enjoy my times as that I fail, but I'm not scared of them any longer. I sort of am just, I know that it's going to happen inevitably, and I'm excited to grow and to learn as a human. So really just changing that perspective in yourself can be helpful, especially when you're struggling and you have anxiety, or you're, struggling with that fear of failure. So embrace it instead of fearing it, and that will really help you in the long run. So yeah, just embracing that chance to fail instead of thinking of it as like some scary unknown thing, because it'll be okay. Okay, the next thing is growing and learning in the process. So, we talked about all of these different things, from mindset to acceptance to embracing your failure, and now we are here talking about this. So this is something that I've also learned throughout my journey, trying to boost my own self-confidence and really, be able to grow as a human. So mapping your success is really helpful. So I've had a journal since 2012, I think. And I'm able to look back and read that journal and see, okay, this is how I wrote, and this is how I was in 2012. This is how I wrote, and this is how I was in 2016. And you're able to sort of know and read back and learn how you grew. Now, I mean, I've been journaling for a while, and so, it's just sort of something habitual in my life, but this isn't something that you guys have to do, but I would encourage it, just because for me, I live with myself every single day, just like you guys. And so you don't really see that progression, and it's not linear. It's definitely up and down, but you are going up, and you are growing as a person. And so when you are journaling that and you're actually like writing it down, you can sort of see that. Or if you talk to a friend that you haven't talked to in a couple years, maybe they can point that out for you. But it's just a nice way to know that you are growing and that you are becoming this human that you want to become, without somebody having to tell you that, I guess. So I really like to map my success, I say. And then implementing what you learn. So sometimes, this goes with the journaling, but this also goes with just learning in general. A lot of times when I look back at my journal, I write, things that I've learned or things that I've experienced and what I want to do differently. And then I realize, oh, I didn't really implement that much. Or if I did implement it, it's nice just to have that reminder just to continue to implement it. So maybe that's for me, it's been celebrating my wins. So a lot of times when I achieve something, I'm like, okay, that's nice. And then I'm on to the next thing. So I don't really sit and I don't really celebrate myself for that because it's a huge win, or even if it's a small win, you know. So just implementing what you learn and remembering to implement what you learn. I really love mantras. You know, I love scheduling it in my planner, just like a little reminder or something, and then reading back at my journal. And once in a while, I'll come upon something and I appreciate it. So another thing is just remaining curious. And this is something that's always been sort of intrinsic to me, but I realize that for other people, maybe it's not something that really comes that naturally, but just remaining curious about anything, honestly. I love listening to podcasts, taking online courses, and just sort of absorbing knowledge. Like you guys are all here today, so I'm sure that this is something that you're also interested in, but just remaining curious and getting knowledge on things that you want to get knowledge on. And there's no barrier to that knowledge. And nowadays with all this technology, there's unlimited amounts of knowledge that you guys can dive into. So I really feel like that helps me, especially with my confidence in career interviews or with anything like that, which has been a recent focus of mine. So anything that can help with that really can boost your self-confidence because you have all this knowledge and you have all this curiosity about the world. So that can be helpful. And then this one, celebrating your wins and enjoying the journey. Sometimes we get so fixated on the destination that we forget to sort of enjoy the journey of getting there. And it is a journey and it's a process, but it should also be enjoyable. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be fun. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy, but it means that it's going to be worth it. And you're going to value what happens at the end even more if you do sort of appreciate and be grateful for even the losses and the wins, you know. It's all about just sort of perspective and having those paradigm shifts, because those are so important, and especially in increasing your self-confidence. I hope this is all making sense. Let me know in the chat if you guys are getting value out of this and if it's all making sense. Sometimes I feel like I ramble. So yeah, let me know. But okay, so now we're just gonna go on to reinforcing this. So how can you reinforce this daily, right? So obviously this is a lot of information. If you guys want the PowerPoint, feel free to DM me or email me and I'll email it to you, or and any other resources that you want. But it's hard to remember how to do it daily. So like what I like to do is just trying to figure out what I want to implement. So what do you want to take from this PowerPoint? What was valuable for you? If you have a notepad, write it down. What's something that you want to actually take away from this? Write it down right now and articulate that. And then figure out how you're going to be held accountable. Are you going to have an accountability buddy? Are you going to write it in your planner and you're going to hold yourself accountable? Are you going to put a reminder in your phone? Or are you going to give yourself, I don't know, some sort of celebration if you achieve whatever goal you want to achieve? Or what is it going to be? So how are you going to hold yourself accountable? So that's the second step. And then if you just want to take a time, every single day to set aside time for that goal. So let's say that it's meditation, or let's say that it's that negative thought, you're going to change it into something positive, or let's say that you're going to implement some more self-love, or you're going to write down 3 things that you're grateful for daily. Like, what is that little thing? Write it down and then set aside time each day. So is that going to be the morning? Is that going to be the night? Is it going to be, on your lunch break in the afternoon? Like, what's it going to be? And yeah, so just kind of setting up that schedule. And then reinforcing that daily. And then if you just keep reinforcing it daily, like for me, the 3 grateful things was something that I really wanted to do for myself. And I wrote it down every single day. I set a reminder in my phone. I put it in my planner. I did it daily. And I just did it. And now every single day, I don't really think about it. I just wake up and I'm like, okay, what are the 3 things I'm grateful for today? How am I feeling today? So it's just something that you just have to continue to do. And after a while, I think it's like, 30 or 60 days or something, I don't know, to make a habit, you'll just you'll feel weird not doing it, if that makes sense. So this is with anything in life, but especially with these little small things that we can tweak in our lives that really do make a difference. So just reinforcing that every single day is really important. And that's why the R in gamer is reinforce, because we want to reinforce these every single day. Okay, so let's go to the takeaways. So 1 is knowing that you can change your thoughts. So don't feel like you're stuck in this low self-esteem vibe, because you can change it. And that's a really good thing. And that's a really awesome thing about the human brain, is that you can change it. 2 is that you have to practice. You have to practice this every single day if you want it to be, stick and be a habit for you. So practicing. 3 is to not be afraid of failing and to actually embrace it. We want to change the way that we're viewing how to fail. And 4 is to have compassion for yourself. So know that this won't happen overnight, but be loving to yourself and, love yourself like you would love a best friend or your mom or something like that. And then, choosing to love yourself and nourish yourself every single day. So whether that's emotionally, mentally, physically, all 3, whatever it is for you guys, just choosing to engage in that self-love will really increase your self-confidence and will help you in order to show up as a very confident and a very motivated individual in the world. Just kind of, taking this all together and implementing it daily will really be helpful for you guys. I can guarantee that. So the last slide is just any questions and where you can find me. So there's my website. I'm also on Instagram, but you'll see that I have YouTube. I think there's a Twitter too and Facebook. So all of those things, you guys can find me. But let me see if there's any questions in the chat, or you guys can unmute yourself as well. Let me see. How should you rebuild your confidence if it's been broken down due to past experiences? So this is a good question. I mean, it's hard because we all do carry these traumas with us, right? And there's experiences that we've all had in the past that can sort of hinder us, especially in our everyday lives. And so I would say that the number one thing you should do is see a therapist. I see a therapist. I know so many people that see therapists. Just seeing somebody who can help uncouple those and unfold those past experiences, especially if they're still implemented and impacting you today, subconsciously or consciously, those can come through in our everyday lives. So I think the number one step would be reaching out to a mental health professional and really setting aside a schedule and a time every single week or every single month that you can sort of relive, I guess you could say, the past, unfold it, and then, carry it with you differently throughout life. Because I do think sometimes if you have past traumas, you need to go back, uncouple them, reinvent them, or, come to peace with them, forgive, and then move forward from that. Because we carry it. There's a book, it's called The Body Keeps the Score. I'll write it in the chat. I recommend this book, Keeps the Score. And it's all about how our bodies actually hold this tension, hold these past traumas and these lived experiences with us. And the only way to sort of get them out is to go through therapy and to really try to, make those efforts to, be better. Better isn't even the right word, to forgive them, I guess, and let them go. I hope that was helpful. I don't know if it was. Let me know if it was. Okay, good. So any other questions or anything for you guys? Any nutrition questions or mindset? I know we didn't touch too much on nutrition, but it's really hard to eat foods that make me feel happy because they are high in calories. Oh, I see what you're saying. And then what if you don't feel great after eating certain foods, but you don't know why? You don't know what those are. Why? I think that this means, and let me know if I'm reading this wrong, but if you're like eating foods and you really don't know which ones are not making you feel that great, I would definitely recommend, let's see if this is the right thing. Yes, okay, cool. I would definitely recommend working with a dietitian to do an elimination diet, to maybe do a GI map, and see, what kind of things are going on in your gut. Gut health is a huge thing, but definitely with something like this, working with a healthcare professional, because you don't want to, especially if you have disordered eating tendencies or if you have any sort of genetic predisposition to restriction and things like that, you really want to work with somebody to work through that and eliminate certain foods and then reincorporate them in your life, or doing some sort of genetic testing, or the GI map I really love for any sort of gastrointestinal stuff. I've done that on myself. I've had a lot of GI issues, was diagnosed with IBS and stuff, and I was like, what do I do with this? And had to sort of run through it. So yeah, I would say working with a healthcare professional like a dietitian would be the best thing that you could do to work through which foods and pinpointing which foods are actually you know, causing whatever it is for you, whether it be fatigue, low energy, bloating, any of those. But yeah, that's what I would do. And then as far as the foods that are really high in calories, but they make you feel happy, like let's say you're like, okay, all that I want to eat is ice cream and cookies. I feel you, because I love ice cream. That's why I mention it all the time, because I myself, I have like a little bowl of ice cream probably a few times a week, just because I love it so much. But yeah, I guess it's one of those things that it is hard, because there are some people that take the intuitive eating approach, which one of my best friends has her own intuitive eating practice and takes the full-on intuitive eating approach, which is really just like uncoupling how you view those foods. And sometimes for some people, if you allow those foods in your life all the time, you sort of get sick of them, and they don't become such a, because sometimes why we like those foods is because they're sort of off limits, so that viewpoint of like, oh, I can't have this, makes you want it more, right? It's almost like if I tell you, don't think about a purple elephant, what are you going to think of? A purple elephant, because that's just how our mind works. So sometimes it's because we tell ourselves that it's bad and that we can't have it, and it makes us want it more because we're rebellious in that sense. So is it that, or is it that, you know, you really do like the food and you have this like sugar addiction, or is it something like that physiological, or is it both? In that case, I think working with a dietitian, again, is going to be your best bet. For doing something that's going to fuel you more. And you can do little things like, I know that there's an approach that we were taught in school. I don't know how well it works in real life, but in theory, we were taught, you know, if you do want ice cream, putting some berries on the ice cream, or some sort of antioxidant rich fruit or vegetable maybe, and then over time putting more berries than ice cream or something like that could maybe help. But again, I don't want to give you advice because I don't know, you know, what pinpoint or viewpoint that you're coming from, but it really does depend on you. But I think that if you're having a hard time with the mindset, then working on that. If you're having a hard time with really just like having that sort of palate towards that food, then that maybe the berry approach would work. But it does depend on you. Let's see. Thank you. That was really helpful. Okay, good. I like want to make sure that I'm helping you guys. Able to consult in the future with me. I have an Instagram, and yeah, you can do one-on-one consults with me. I do corporate wellness seminars too. If you work, I don't know I think you guys are mostly in high school and stuff, but there's corporate wellness seminars. I'm also on a monthly news segment, so that airs every month. But yeah, if you want to get individualized care, you can DM me on Instagram, put it on here, because my website is currently under construction. It's going to be brand new and super cool, so I'm excited. So I've been running a lot of business out of Instagram recently. But that's my nutrition Instagram, so you guys can feel free to DM me on there, and we can work together if you'd like. Any other questions or anything for you guys? And again, if you guys are struggling with any of the things that we talked about, definitely feel free to follow me on any social media. And I try to post as much as possible. Lately, my life has been so chaotic, so I haven't posted anything on social media in a while. But I try to post as much free content as I can. I'm also starting a blog where I'll be writing a lot of free content. And then I do offer, obviously, the individualized care through consultations. But yeah, I talk about a lot of stuff in my highlights on my stories, so you guys click through that and get some advice. And then also, if you're looking for something super specific, like an intuitive eating approach, or if you're looking for somebody who's really, you know, into gastro stuff, then I can also refer you out to a lot of practitioners that are in, you know, my friend group or social media atmosphere, even dermatologists and stuff like that. I have a lot of friends that are in that field, so that I know are really good, that I trust. So if you guys need anything like that, I'd be happy to refer you to them as well. Yeah, of course, Louise. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for speaking at our workshop today. It was really great. I also gained a lot of insight into.
Oh, good. I'm excited. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I love to do. So any sort of, you know, questions or incredible. No, thank you. As much as I can be of service and be helpful, I'm all for. So Thank you so much for having me and for showing up today. You guys are awesome for doing that. So give yourself a little bit of congratulations too.
Yeah. So as Elizabeth said, if you guys have any more questions or if you need any more advice, like feel free to contact her on her social media. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess this wraps up our webinar for today. Once again, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you, Elizabeth, for speaking.
Of course. All right. Hope you guys have a great night.
You too.